The University of Arizona loses this game against the Utah Runnin Utes. Final score, Arizona Wildcats 64 to the Utah Runnin Utes 70. Um, if you look at the stats, I know Walton hates stats, but if you look at the stats, then it was a really, really close game. So you kind of, it's like a couple of games before I've watched. If you look at the stats, you kind of scratch your head and wonder what, what happened. You know, I'm not quite sure what happened, but um, there was little differences that made a big, that made little stats that made huge differences. I mean, one of the stats that was really in favor of the Wildcats was having, I think the University of Arizona had 11 offensive rebounds compared to the Utah Running Utes, which only had 8. Um, but that wasn't enough. The Utah Running Utes actually were 7 for, I think it was 7 for 12 from 13 from three-point land, and we were wait, now they were 7 for. They were, I think they made 7 free three-pointers, and Taylor was the one that made 4 of those three-pointers. Um, and then the Wildcats, I think they made 4 three-pointers or something like that. So it was the three-pointers that really made the difference for the Utah Running Utes, and that's why they were able to pull out this victory. Especially Taylor, for the Utah Running Utes, we didn't really have an answer for him. York was trying really hard to stop Taylor, and it just wasn't really working out. Especially, I think York kind of got tired a little bit right there near the end. Well, it was. I think it was just overwhelming a little bit to the Wildcats over to play over it in Utah. Um, because they just in Salt Lake City, because they just couldn't. It was just the fans. I think they had 15,000 capacity, and it was. I mean, the Utah Running Utes, they had lost 9 games against the U of A Wildcats before then. So the Utah Running Utes had never won a game against the Wildcats at uh, um, at Salt Lake City. So it was definitely time for the Utah Running Utes to pull out this victory and beat the Arizona Wildcats, and the Utah Running Utes did with they beat the Arizona Wildcats with um, with some class. They had class because right at the end of the game, they beat the Arizona Wildcats, for the first time in I don't know how many seasons, a long time, and they didn't rush the court. And everyone's always seems to rush the court after they beat the Arizona Wildcats, but the Utah Running Utes did not rush the court after they beat the Arizona Wildcats. So that was very classy, very cool of the Utah Running Utes to do that. It was okay. So we had Taylor being defended by York, and York, I think he just got tired of defending against Taylor. There was a few that I missed right there at the end, defensive breakdowns that I didn't really notice. But I really think that it was York that was one of the other defensive breakdowns, because if you look at the defensive breakdowns, um, um, Taylor had seven. There was 7 times that the U of A um, failed to defend against Taylor. So, uh, so Taylor was able to pretty much rip us apart, especially at the end. Taylor just ripped the Arizona Wildcats apart because he scored most of their points right there at the end. I mean, it was Bonham for the Utah Run Utes that scored. I think he knocked down a yeah, well, he knocked down a field goal, and I think Taylor knocked down a three-pointer. That was a dagger in the Arizona Wildcats' heart right there at the end, because Taylor got York to trip up on his ankle, and Taylor had that three-pointer just open, and there was nothing that we could do about it. The way I think that we should put maybe Parker Jackson-Cartwright on Taylor, because Taylor is like 5'10" or 5'11", and Parker Jackson-Cartwright is about the same size, same height. So maybe I think next time we should put Parker Jackson-Cartwright on Taylor, because I mean, if you look at York, he couldn't stop Taylor. I remember Allen. He couldn't defend against Taylor one time. There was a defensive breakdown against Taylor from Allen. Trier had one time that he uh, broke down. He couldn't defend against Taylor. But you know, like I said, Taylor is he's a much smaller guy, a much shorter guy than Trier. So it's kind of understandable that Trier couldn't follow him. Trier had the highest points for the team with 23 points, and then the second one was Anderson with 11. But um, the thing that was another really good matchup was with Caleb Karzewski and defending against Pirtle. Um, it was fun. I enjoyed it because Caleb Karzewski is a big, massive guy, you know, and Pirtle. I don't really know that much about Pirtle, but he's also 7 foot or 7'2". I'm not quite sure how tall he is, but so he had there was 7 times that the Arizona Wildcats failed to defend against Pirtle. 6 of those failed attempts were from Tarzewski. Um, but, you know, Tarzewski, he only scored 9 points, but, and Pirtle scored, I think, 14 points, but I was also looking at the amount of time that Pirtle played. He played, I think it was 7 more minutes or something like that than Tarzewski did. So it was a battle between those 2 7-footers, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. I mean, that was cool. It was nice competition. I really wish that Tarzewski could get the upper hand against Pearl the next time that they play. Um, who knows? They might play in the tournament, in the Pac-12 tournament. But then the Arizona Wildcats have to get by Colorado or Washington State, and they also have to get past Oregon, assuming Oregon wins the game. But I think they will. But then Arizona would, after they got past Oregon, then they might be able to have to play Utah, or they might have to play California. There's a whole lot of what ifs that are involved in that situation. So we had Bonham, which I think he had 11 points. Um, he knocked down 1 or 2 3-pointers. I think he knocked down 1 3-pointer. because Taylor knocked down those, I think, 4 3-pointers. Um, but Bonham, um, I think a person that would be good on Bonham might be Tollefson. Or Tollefson might be, well, no, Tollefson could defend against Bonham because I think Bonham is like a 6'6" or 6'5" or something like that. So yeah, Tollefson, it would be a step down because Tollefson I think is 6'9" or 6'8". So I think he would be able to defend against Bonham, but I don't know if he has the same speed as Bonham. So if he could keep up with Bonham, hopefully uh, Tarczewski can deal with Pirtle the next time that Tarczewski has to play against Pirtle. It'll be a good matchup. So that'll be a good matchup to watch if that happens again. Another thing is if we do end up playing against Taylor from the Utah Run Utes, then maybe Parker Jackson-Cartwright would be good against Taylor. Or maybe Sean Miller had him playing against had Parker Jackson-Cartwright playing against Taylor. I didn't really notice that. But anyway, I don't think that York was could defend against Taylor, and that's why Taylor was able to pretty much win the game for the Utah Run Utes right there at the end. Anyway, the Utah Run Utes win this game against the Arizona Wildcats. Utah